Spirit of God, come down. Spirit of God, rain down. Spirit of God, come into my life. Spirit of God, rain down. Let your fire fall on me. Oh, Spirit of God, fall on me. Spirit, fall on me. Oh, let your fire fall on me. Oh, Spirit of God, fall on me. Spirit, fall on me. I pray you rain down, rain down in my life, Lord. Rain down, rain. I pray you rain down, rain down in my life, Lord. Rain down, rain. Oh, Spirit of God.
Hello dear friends, welcome back. And today we are going to reflect on the last few chapters of the first book of Samuel. In chapter 27 we have seen David going to take refuge in the Philistine city of Gath. Achish is the king there. And when David approached him with an army, we can see Achish allowed him to live in a town called Ziklag, and that became the property of David. There was this great dilemma. When an opportunity comes, what will David do? If he chooses to fight against Israel, it will be a blame for him. And when he was living there in Ziklag, to make a living for all the people, they used to go for looting. And whenever the king Achish would ask, where did he go? David would say, I went to the village of Judah or village of Benjamin. And the king will think, David is making himself an enemy of the villagers or his own tribe, his own people. But actually, he was raiding other villages. And he also used to share a part of the spoil with his own people. And therefore, he was always keen to secure their support in one way or other. And this is the story that we find in chapter 27. And now in chapter 28, we see. Now, Prophet Samuel has already died. And that is referred to in chapter 25. And no much of narrative is made about him or his death. Just a casual mentioning, that is all. In 25:1, now Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him. They buried him at his hometown in Ramah. That's all. Therefore, we can see Samuel is already dead and gone. And the priest who remained or who was not killed by Saul is Abiathar, and he is with David. Therefore, Saul was deprived of all the means to inquire of the Lord. No priest and no prophet. It was a very dire situation, we can say. And now the war with Philistines come up. And when the people or the soldiers are gathered together, Saul is worried about the outcome of the war, because Philistine army is mightier than that of Israel, and he was not sure what would happen to the Israelite army if the Philistines chooses to attack. And now he wanted to know what Samuel has to say. But how to contact Samuel? He is already dead and gone. And therefore, Saul approaches a medium for divination. And remember that according to the command of the Lord, divination is equivalent to apostasy. That is, to know the things using the power of other gods. And Saul during his reign has done away with all the mediums who practice such divinations. But there were a few here and there, and they used to continue to do such divinations. And Saul now does something strange. He changed his appearance, the clothes, and just like an ordinary man, he went to a woman who was practicing such a divination. And he said to this woman, I want to see Samuel, who is dead and gone. Kindly bring him up. And the woman, using her rituals, was able to contact with dead Samuel or the spirit of Samuel. And she said, here is the one coming now. And what is his appearance? And she described the appearance, and that was of Samuel himself. And Saul knew that it was Samuel. And when Samuel was appearing, the woman knew that the one who has come in search of Samuel was Saul himself, and she was afraid. But he consoled her, do not be afraid, and so on. And when Samuel approached him, he asked Saul, why did you disturb me? Why did you come to me now? And he said, as I had no other means to know what would be the outcome of the war, I came to you. God does not answer me. The words that he speaks is clear. I am in great distress. Verse 15, 28:15. For the Philistines are warring against me, and God has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have summoned you to tell me what I should do. Therefore, in order to know the will of God, there is no other way. And that is why he has accepted this means or method. That is what Saul claims. And now, what is the reply? And that is terrible. He says, verse 18, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord and did not carry out his fierce wrath against Amalek, therefore, Lord has done this thing to you today. Moreover, the Lord will give Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons shall be with me. The Lord will also give the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. You and your sons shall be with me tomorrow. That means they will be dead and will be with me in Sheol. He was coming to seek the opinion of Samuel. What will be the outcome of the war? But now he gets the message. And what is the message? Practically, he is going to lose everything. He and his sons will be killed, the nation will be defeated, and they will be taken captives, and everything will be destroyed. And that is the news. And hearing this news, that is the news that is going to happen to him, he fell down unconscious, as if dead. But the woman nursed him, and then he got up, she gave him something to eat, and so on. And finally, he went away with a sorrowful heart. And that story we find narrated in chapter 28. And in the beginning of chapter 28, we see when the war began between Philistines and Israelites, the time comes for David to prove or to establish his support for the king, and how he would do in those days. 28 beginning. The Philistines gathered their forces for war to fight against Israel. And Achish said to David, "You know, of course, that you and your men are to go out with me in the army. Therefore, they have to fight alongside with the army of Achish against the army of Saul." David said to Achish, "Very well, then you shall know what your servant can do." These words can have a dual meaning. You can then know what your servant can do. It can mean that David may fight against the army of Israel, or David may fight against the Philistine army itself. Therefore, it can have both meanings. Then you can know what I can do when there is war. And now Achish does not understand anything here, so whether anything special is hidden here. And therefore, what does he say? "Very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life." And he knows about the military ability or the capabilities of David. And therefore, he says, "I will make you my bodyguard." And he was happy to have David with him. But David's dilemma is there. What can he do? And that is how the things go forward. And when we come to chapter 29, we will find the army was practically marching forward, and the Philistines, according to the kingdoms, there were 5 kingdoms, and the army of each one was moving forward. And when the army of Achish came, David and his men also were with them. And that was immediately noted by the other kings of Philistia. And they asked Achish, "Why these Hebrews are here?" And then he said, "Now they are with us." But the other king said to Achish, "Send them back now. They need not fight with us." And what is the reason? It can happen that at the time of the war, they may turn hostile. That is, they may turn against us and fight with us in our own army, our own tents or our own camps. And therefore, let them be away. It is better for our safety. And Achish was sorrowful and angry, and he sent them back to to Ziklag. And then for David, it was a great relief. Why? Because he was saved saved from a great dilemma. And what is the dilemma? He was not sure how or with whom he should fight. And now, as he is spared of the war, he is relieved, and that is what we can say. Therefore, he need not now fight against the army of Saul or with his own people. It would have given a blame for him. And again, another thing, he was able to come back, and therefore he is not displeasing, or he is not doing anything against the will of Achish, because he was compelled to come back by Achish himself. And therefore he is saved from a great crisis situation, we can say. Okay, therefore this is the story that we will find in chapter 29. And you see, even when this occurrence is also seems to have taken place according to God's plan. And what's the reason? When they came back to Ziklag, they take note that the Amalekites had raided their village or the town and took everything away. And not only that, they captured the women and girls from their houses, and they have fled away. And David does not know or did not know where to find them. And that is the story that we will find here. And it is described in chapter 30. David's wives also had been taken captive, 10:5. And David was in great danger, for the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in spirit for their sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Okay, this would mean when he returned to Ziklag, they come to see that all their wives and children were taken captives by Amalekites who raided Ziklag. And we know David used to go to raid in Amalek villages, and probably they took this opportunity knowing that David is gone for the war. And they never thought David would come back so soon, because war will take some time. And therefore the Amalekites, they raided the land and took the people away, took the cattle and all that they had away. And unexpectedly David came back, David and others. And now they were all bitter in spirit, because they lost practically everybody and everything. And now a kind of restlessness evolved in the camp. They wanted to kill David, to stone him to death, because he is the one who organized them. And therefore they were all against him now. But it is said, as we heard, he strengthened himself. You say, what does it mean? Probably it may mean like this: when the people began to raise their voices against him, he might have challenged them. Whoever dares to fight with me, let him come forward. And because of his challenge, nobody would have been willing, because everyone knows no one would be able to stand against David. Such was his power, his might, and his courage. And therefore, David was able to establish his power once again with the help of the Lord. And that is why it is said, he strengthened himself in the Lord. Okay, now it is not enough. They had to regain whatever was lost. And that is a story narrated in chapter 30. And how does he do that? In verse 7, he is asking priest Abiathar to inquire about the will of God. Verse 8, David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue this band? Pursue, you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. That was the answer he got. So David set out, he and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the Wadi Besor, and there were some who stayed back, and others went forward, about 400, and 200 stayed back with their luggages. That is what we see here. And in verse 11 we see, as they were proceeding, they came across an Egyptian, and they brought him to David, and they asked him, what is the situation, or where does he come from, and so on. Then David asked him, to whom do you belong? Where are you from? I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite. My master left him behind because I fell sick 3 days ago. We had made a raid in Negeb and on that which belongs to Judah, and we burned Ziklag down. David said to him, will you take me down to this raiding party? Then he said, if he will not kill me, I will do. And David took him, and thus they were able to find out the camp of Amalekites. Verse 17, David attacked them from twilight until the evening of the next day. Not one of them escaped, except 400 young men who mounted camels and fled. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and David rescued his wives and the wives and daughters and sons of everyone. They were rescued. Therefore, David was able to achieve the victory over them. Therefore, this is what we see here. And now David was able to control the army, his people, and also to keep them in order, and of course with the help of God, or help of God's grace, we can say. And now we go to chapter 31, and there we find the war between Philistines and Israel. A very serious, very grave war was there, and the result is alarming and shocking for Israel. Saul was killed, his sons, and they all were killed. And Israel lost the war, people were taken captives, and the Philistines had won the war as they went forward, or as they had fought against Israel. And here we see, Saul was wounded. Verse 3, the battle pressed hard upon Saul, the archers found him, and he was badly wounded by them. Then Saul said to the armor bearer, draw your sword and thrust me through with it, so that these uncircumcised may not come and thrust me through and make sport of me. To make sport of me means it was the practice of the time that when a captive is taken, especially a big guy or an important person is taken captive, they would make a sport of him, or they would make him fight with the wild animals, or they will injure him and will persecute him, crush him, make them do all kinds of things. And therefore, to make sport of these people was a practice of the time. And Saul is afraid that if he is caught alive, the Philistines may do these kinds of things with him. And therefore, he asked his armor bearer to kill him. But he was not ready for that. So Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. That is, he killed himself. And then what happens? Verse 8. When the Philistines came to strip the dead, because they can take for themselves whatever they find precious in the bodies of killed ones. And they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, stripped off his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of Philistines to carry the good news to the houses of their idols and to the people. And that means the news is spread among all the shrines of their God. And why? Because they think that their idols, their gods, gave them the victory over Israel. They put his armor in the temple of Astarte as a war trophy, we can say. And they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. You see, to dishonor a dead body, that also was very cruel, practically. They cut off the head, that is dishonoring, and again they hang on the city wall. And what is the impact? The birds of the air will come and eat his flesh, and that was the way. And therefore, this was what happened. And nobody would come to rescue them because it is in the land of the Philistines. And now we see, when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead, verse 11, heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the violent men set out, travelled all night long, and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan. They came to Jabesh and buried them there. Thus we see the men of Jabesh Gilead paid back a thankful action for what Saul had done for them some time back. Remember the story narrated in chapter 11. Ammonites were not, they came to attack Jabesh Gilead. When the tree asked for a treaty, they said, we will gauge out your right eye and then make a treaty. But then it was Saul who organized an army and went against them, defeated them, and saved the people of Jabesh Gilead. Now they are practically giving back the almost in the same coin, and they were not able to save the life of Saul, but still at least they were given a burial worthy for them. First book of Samuel comes to an end, and now we see the king Saul is dead. The way, on the other hand, is open for David now, and that is what is going to develop in the future story of Israel, we can say. Therefore, this is how the story proceeds. Okay, hereby we conclude this session, and tomorrow we will continue with the next session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lord, for your constant accompaniment, especially through your word. Help us to move into a deeper understanding of your truth through the help of your Holy Spirit. Amen.